From the News Channel 5 Network, this is Open Line.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Open Line. Glad you are with us. It is Tuesday, July 28th. 1 week from today, Metro goes back to school. Students are back to school. But as you know, it will be remotely. So there will be remote learning. And as part of our Safely Back to School endeavor and our effort to give you all the information possible, we are going to be talking tonight about how to maintain equity. How will it be equal in the midst of remote learning? Very happy to have with us two people who can talk about this, and of course they're joining us via Zoom, as is the case now. We have Ashford Hughes. He is with Metro, Executive Officer of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. Ashford Hughes, thank you for being with us. And also Christiane Buggs, Metro School Board member, District 5. Christiane Buggs, thank you for being with us.
No, thank you for the invitation.
All right, so we're talking about how do we maintain equity. There are a lot of people that are, this is new. This is new territory, and there's a lot of discomfort. We're seeing discomfort from teachers, from parents, I'm sure from students. We'll jump into how do we make this equitable, but first let's kind of just give an overview from both of you as best you can how this will work, just kind of the 101 basics on it. And I'll start with you, Christiane Buggs. How will this virtual remote learning work 1 week from today?
Sure. So I'll say the Tennessee State Department of Education has declared that we will be responsible for 180 days of instruction, no matter what. So knowing that we must start August 4th, despite our COVID numbers and our kind of increases in pandemic numbers, we decided to go completely virtual. So beginning August 4th, students on their laptops or other electronic devices will log on. Before then, they'll be receiving schedules and information out from their school and their grade level teacher. But overall, we'll all be committing to 2 days of what we call synchronous time, where you'll be expected in a live session to sit with the teacher to understand content. And then the other the other 4.5 hours in the day will be asynchronous time, where you'll be responsible for watching modules or participating in modules, engaging in other learning activities. But we're committed to the 6.5 hours per day, 180-day calendar that the Tennessee Department of Education is asked to adhere to.
Do you think students will be sitting then in front of their computer at home for that amount of time each day? Is that pretty much the expectation?
No, and in fact, the hope is that they would not. You just like with working adults, you have meetings, but we also need think time. You need to work through assessments, or you need to think through projects. I think many of our educators have spent the summer becoming extremely innovative and thinking through how they will engage students in play. They will engage students in group projects. So we expect them to have some think time that may not necessarily be on a computer.
Okay, and Ashford Hughes, kind of how are you seeing this? Kind of give us the overview from your perspective.
First of all, thank you for having us, and I kind of mimic what our school board member said, but Dr. Battle has charged the staff, teachers, principals, all with making certain that we have a common curriculum across the district so we can ensure equity is in play with distance learning. Right now, we're in the process of making certain that we have all of our students with the devices needed to be able to participate in our virtual school right now, and we also are making sure parents, teachers, principals, everybody has the developmental tools to be able to make certain that we are providing our students with a world-class education. Dr. Battle made certain that all of our students would come into this school receiving the same quality education that they received as we left last year. So right now, we are making certain that we are distributing those devices right now to get to homes. Those individuals that we know need access to computers, we're working with our schools to have the schools be a place and a hub where students can come and pick up those devices. But we also are working with our community partners, churches, Community Achieves, to make certain that we are reaching out in the community to those students that we may not have got information from, to see what their needs are and to make certain that they have an access to the tablet, make sure they have access to a hotspot to be able to use their tablet, but also to make certain that they are prepared with Schoology and that their parents are prepared to help them along the way. That is the charge that Dr. Battle has given us as administrators, as a district, to make certain that we are still academically seeing equity across the board.
So that would be my biggest concern, is that there would be a lot of students, a lot of families that don't have access to the internet or access to computers. I know money was spent to buy computers. I don't know that if they're all going to be here in time, or what the status of that is. But I want to ask you, Ashford Hughes, how do we make sure that this is equitable, that they will have access, that low-income students will have the same access that students in upper-income families have? How do we make this really equitable, and how do we make it work?
So two things that always pushes equity forward. One, we have to know what the data is and what the data is showing us where the need is. And two, we have to be intentional about making certain that we address the need that is there. So earlier this summer, we also did as an MNPS, issued a survey. We reached about 86 to 96%, 80 to 86 to 90% of our parents and families to see what those needs were as far as the digital gap was. With that, we got a good supply or good number of recognizing that we have around 34,000 families that don't have access to computers. So that is where our first distribution is going to end up, to those families that told us that there was a need. And that is why also with the first distribution that we have, gratefully, that our mayor gave us from the CARES Act, that we're going to be making certain that those devices get to the families and homes that are in need. That is why the importance of our community partners cannot be underscored. We need that support. And we've been working with the churches, with fraternities, sororities, those organizations, to make certain that those kids that we were not able to get in contact with earlier this summer, that we are knocking doors and going community by community to make certain to get those devices to them and to get the necessary things they need to be able to utilize those devices alongside with them.
So Christiane Buggs, well, yeah, go ahead. What were you gonna say?
No, go. Well, I was going to say that we distributed 10,000 laptops in the spring, and many students still have those because we knew that there was a need then. But let me be clear: every student will receive a laptop. We have enough to give every child a laptop, so we will be a one-to-one school district. Our last shipment, because just like literally a few 100,000 school districts, we're going virtual. So we're all flooding Dell and Apple and other manufacturers with requests. So our last shipment of Dell computers will be in October. So we're not one-to-one quite yet, but we're working on it. I would just urge families to, if they have not already, go ahead and reach out to their school. Make sure that they have updated their contact info, so that they're getting the call outs, they're getting the mail outs, they're getting the emails, so that they can have as much accurate and up-to-date information as possible, because we need families to know exactly when they can come pick up the next shipment of laptops. We need to let them be able to let them know that hotspots are there for them to pick up, and then just making sure that we've connected to families in a truly authentic way to make sure that we're understanding what their needs are and kind of doing touch point assessments. So we know that to serve this very diverse, very large urban school district, we're still piecing together resources, but we are leaning heavily on the community, and we're asking everyone to be as proactive as they possibly can right now.
How prepared do you feel like your district is, Christiane Buggs? How prepared do you think? It's a week away, and it concerns me when I hear that there's some computers that won't be here till October. How prepared are they to hit the ground running in 1 week?
So I'll say this, just like the rest of the world, we had to pivot, and we pivoted quickly. But East High School, I had a parent contact me that she was in line at East to get a laptop and a hotspot. That was today, and they unfortunately ran out of hotspots. That doesn't mean that we don't have any more in the district, but it does mean that we are getting those out to the community, as quickly as we get them. We know that there will be some lag time just between families really becoming acclimated with their devices and really acclimated with the safer at home, having to work and having to go to school, and families. So I think there's just going to be a bit of a learning curve also that we just have to expect. But for the 42 schools in my district, I would say My honest answer is we are about as prepared as we can be. We have principals who are sending out daily communication. You have teachers who are already contacting their students. You have paraprofessionals who are contacting their families to make sure that they understand all the needs that family has, and they're working with the occupational therapists and the counselors and whomever else that caseload would suggest needs to be at the table. So we're working through kinks as we can, but I cannot stress enough that we would love for families to go ahead and reach out to us now. Don't wait until the day before school, because there will be some hiccups.
So Ben, if I may,
yeah, go ahead.
I do want to, again, talk about over the last 2-3 weeks, we've had meetings in MNPS with our executive principals, meeting with principals, meeting with leaders on the academic side, meeting with leaders on the school support side, meeting with operations side, and everybody right now is working tirelessly together to make certain that we are prepared and ready to hit the ground running. We know that this will be an evaluation as well, that we say, hey, what didn't work well this first day? But trust me when I say we have leaders, particularly at the school level, that are really focused on making certain teachers have what they need, that families have the communication and the access to communication that is needed to know what steps are taking place, how they can be involved in the learning process, and all of that is taking place right now. And Dr. Battle, again, has charged this district with going above and beyond to make certain that we do fit these equity needs across not just race and social economic boundaries, but along the lines also of English learners and our exceptional education students as well. So we are going above and beyond to make certain that we meet the needs of our students where they are right now.
There are some opportunities here, and I want to talk about that in a moment. I mean, there are some opportunities for some remarkable learning, and hopefully that we can realize that. But let's say everyone gets a computer and that part is worked out, and so you have parents that are sitting there with their kids on the first week of school. They have their computer. What is the other big concern that each of you has beyond just getting the computer and the access? What else needs to be done to make sure this really works and it is inclusive and equitable and that kind of thing? And Ashford Hughes, I'll start with you.
For me, when it comes to equity, we have to make certain that we are working strongly with community partners. We know that a child, we talk about the whole child. Schools within themselves are communities, right? And you have to have the support of the community to help that child achieve maximum success. So as we have parents who are also working at the same time and students at home trying to learn online, we're going to need that total community support to be able to move this process along in a just and an equitable manner. So that means, our churches, our partners with the Community Achieves, who have done a wonderful job to make certain that they stay active and engaged within this process. The whole community is going to be needed to make certain that our students are working closely together, that we keep everybody within the midst of understanding what's working right now, what's not working right now, and how do we come in and make those adjustments where we see that those students are in need of help. Dr. Battle also made it known throughout the district specifically that every student was going to be contacted no less than once a week to check up on them, not just on the academic side, but on the social emotional side as well. We know that many of our students have experienced a lot of trauma with the tornado that came before the COVID response, and now our students have been kind of isolated for the last 4+ months. So the first thing that we are going to do over the first week or two is really check on our students emotionally. Where are they at emotionally? Talk with them. Make certain that we have mindful minutes set up so that we can understand and not just directly jump into the school academic side, but let's check up on these students so they can create a sense of belonging with the district. So my big concern is how are we utilizing the holistic community approach to supporting these kids, and how are we also just checking up on them emotionally, mentally, to make certain that they're in a good place to learn.
Okay, all right, very good. And Christiane Buggs, what is your thought? Let's say, again, they have access now to computers, it's right there, they have that part kind of taken care of. What's your next concern? What's the next hurdle?
Yeah, Ashford said it very eloquently. I mean, the social emotional well being of our children. We have students with exceptional needs as well. I mean, so even your general education student is going to have some trauma to unpack. Has and often been regulated by their peers and the relationships that they've built within the school walls. So we've got to be ready to unpack those things. But then for students that have any kind of exceptional need, making sure that our occupational therapists and physical therapists and our encore teachers are prepared. And don't get me started on the younger learners, those who really don't have the dexterity to work with laptops or devices, or won't be able to key in their own responses and going to be heavily dependent on their parents for supports, parents who might be working their own job on their own laptop. So I think the devices was a great first step and a necessary one, to be frank. But now we are going to lean heavily on one another. This is one of those safer at home together scenarios where if young professionals or professionals of any age have a desire to support MNPS by offering any amount of time, we definitely have a place for you. So I think I'm trying not to be all consumed by my fears or by the anxiety that I think many of us are feeling, but we have some protocols in place, we have some procedures in place, and now we're just asking to send us your feedback and your suggestions or even your concerns as you have them. We will be ready to try to pivot quickly to support you all as best we can.
So are you saying? So you said that you would welcome help. I mean, I guess Ashford's talking about churches. You were talking about, it sounded like volunteers. Let's say there's a church that wants to help. How could they realistically, without interfering, without getting in the way, what could they do? Let's say there's somebody out there, they want to help. What could they do at this point? And Christian,
there's so many options. Oh my goodness. It really just depends on the capacity that church has, and not just physically, but the human capacity that they have. We have some churches that are opening up their space for a certain number of students per hour, per day. They have tutors in there to help them work through their work, but it's also a safe place for students to be, or for young people to be, while parents have to be at work or have to do something else essential outside of the home. So we have those scenarios. We have churches that are literally teaming up to not only drive meals to their students, but to also take their members as in-home tutors. I mean, Ashford, I'm sure you can speak to some of this, but the options really are out of this world. I mean, they're innumerable, and we can put you in contact with some churches that already have some well thought out plans that are really different but cater to the needs of their individual communities.
And it's not just the churches, but I'll use an organization that I'm familiar with, the My Brother's Keeper Network, the Phi Beta Sigma chapter here in Nashville. We're talking about how do we mentor and work with these young students to provide tutoring opportunities for them. And again, how are we checking up on these students? So we are in several schools, and we are partnering with these schools to make certain that we either sponsor a classroom or sponsor different students to make certain that we are checking up on them, to mentoring them. I think churches are going to play a vital role in that tutoring space as parents are coming in from work. How does that look? But there are a multitude of opportunities. Community Achieves, Allison MacArthur, their website is offering opportunities up. So we ask that the students in these communities, or the churches, the people that want to support, the volunteers, go to the Community Achieves website and find a place where you can fit in right there. But there will be various opportunities in a safe place, following the health guidelines, that we can support our students, support our teachers, and support our families at this time.
Let me ask you, school board member Christiane Buggs, how concerned are you that this will go beyond 1 month? And I guess we can't look into a crystal ball, but how concerned are you? I mean, what's been said is this is going to be the first month. Then we'll kind of reassess where the virus is, where we are as a community. How concerned are you this will go longer than 1 month?
Well, I will say in Nashville, I've been really, really proud of the way that our officials have really come together. I mean, our mayor, Superintendent Dr. Battle, our health department, other business professionals, I mean, they've really come together to make sure that they're supporting us, and we appreciate that. But the reality is the numbers are not going down. I mean, I knew back in March, I knew personally, just based on what was happening around us and who all was shutting down and for how long, that we likely wouldn't be back at the end of that school year, and we didn't. And looking at the way numbers are spiking, especially around holidays, and we have another holiday coming up, I personally believe that this will be for at least a few months. If adults don't curb our behavior, if we're not a bit safer with our interactions, I think this could go well beyond the month scenario that we're planning for right now. I keep saying the word pivot, and I'm sure we're all tired of it, but the reality is we have to be prepared to pivot at any moment. There may be there could be a significant drop in cases and things go well for 2 weeks and we're able to move into buildings. I just don't see that happening based on the historical, just even the past 2 weeks worth of national data, let alone statewide or federal level data. So
we need to be ready
for a while.
Wow. So we need to be ready for the long haul here. And Ashford Hughes,
think be prepared. Yeah,
be prepared. So, I want to ask you, Ashford Hughes.
Yep.
There's I've heard concern from people that private schools will be going back. In Davidson County, here we have metro schools that are not. They're going to be doing the learning remotely. Private schools are pretty determined to go back and be there in person. What do you think about that? Do you have an opinion about that? Is that okay? Is that not okay? What do you think about that?
Ashford,
so go ahead. I'm sorry, school board member.
I'm sorry, I'm bursting at the seams, and I do not mean to interject, but I could at least speak politically, Ashford, and then allow you to really talk about your own, personal and professional thoughts. But I think politically, the reality is we don't have the kind of budgets that private schools have. Private schools in this city, parents or community members are paying upwards of $20,000 per child. In MNPS, we are allocated a little over $10,000 per child. So our safety measures, our curriculum supports are just not going to be the same because unfortunately it is the belief in this city that our own individual kids deserve different than what our neighbors' kids do. So we haven't been inclined as a city to really offer the kind of financial support or budgetary support that we should. So again, I'll say private schools in this area that are opening up are spending $20,000 to $25,000 per child. In MNPS, we are allotted $10,000 per child. I hope that helps, Ashford, to kind of clear the way for you.
Yes. So my focus is Dr. Battle's charge that she has given to me, which is also the charge of the school board, is to focus on those students that are coming into our MNPS facilities and expecting high expectations for student success. They're expecting that race, class, gender, sexual orientation, disability does not factor into their student success. So over the last 2 months, Dr. Battle has assembled a team that is focused on the academic side, the operation side, and the student, family, teacher support side. And we have been vehemently working on all three scenarios. And we have been making certain that we look at national trends, the health trends, and we were prepared to come into school if we were as a city in phase 3, phase 4. But once we did receive the notice that we were going back into phase 2, that is when, as our school board member has said, we pivoted, we shifted into this virtual mode. So right now, Dr. Battle has been preparing the team to be in modes of understanding that we may go back full time and we may be in this place full time, but we need to be operating on a mode of being able to shift, but making certain that we are at its core providing students with an opportunity to be successful in this environment, no matter if we're fully in school, if we're virtual, or if there's a hybrid model. That is the charge that Dr. Battle has given the school district, and that's the charge that I will continue to follow.
Let me ask you, Christiane Buggs, before I go to break, and then we're going to start taking calls. From the political side of things, I have heard concern from parents. We are in phase 2. And again, about the private schools. Private schools are going to go, even though the county is in phase 2. Children, I guess they're able to socially distance more, they spend more money on them, whatever. But are you concerned that it prevents Metro from going back if you have a group of schools, children that are going back to school when Metro is staying out? Does it maybe make it more difficult for us to be able to leave phase 2 and eventually get back into school if you have all of the private schools going back? Do you have an opinion on that?
That's a really interesting question, one that I hadn't thought about, but I would say I trust educators. I trust that the educators that are making these decisions are doing so with the understanding that they have the equipment and the resources to make their students and their staff and their families as safe as possible. So I think the reality is there are several other sectors of our community that are opening up and maybe not being as safe that we could focus on. I think what what our data has shown us is that it is the activity of adults, it's the decision of adults that will determine whether or not our children are back in school. So I certainly wouldn't put the onus on our private schools. I would just say that I trust that they will be as safe as they possibly can. But I do think every other adult that can needs to be as safe as possible. Mask up when you can. Be clean. I think we just need to take more of the onus as a community.
All right, we're going to take a break, and then I'm going to start taking calls. Lots of calls. Ashley, Ann, Sharon, Natasha, Tina. So many calls. All right, we'll take a break, and we'll come right back with your questions.